Well, it's been a long time since I've been on a podcast, so bear with me. I'm just bearing my grounds. But I decided to start a whole new series. I don't know if I'm going to keep going with the crazy train, but I might. But I decided to basically give this podcast a main purpose in a way that it benefits both me and the audience. And I call the new series Life of a Rapper, because if I could ever describe my life in any way, that's exactly how I'd describe it, is the life of a rapper. So my new series is basically going to be about following along through some of the things that made me into the rapper that I am today, and just my come up as a rapper, hopefully making it to the big leagues, and celebrity status and all that. But one can only hope, one can only be optimistic. So I call it the life of a rapper because when I rap, it's not just rapping for me. A lot of the times it's literally just the only way I can think clearly and just focus on what I'm thinking about. Every minute of my life, I'm writing in my mind. Maybe not on paper, but in my mind. I'm always writing. I'm the type of person that loves to people watch, and I'll look at people out in public, and I'll try and write what their life is like. And I guess sometimes it's kind of just my way of taking away from my life and just everything that's wrong with it. When it's hard to process what's going on in my life, I'll literally just write all kinds of scenarios for different people that I see just randomly. And it's in part to do with the fact that I have a brain injury, which I believe I've mentioned before at least once on Crazy Train, but I got a brain injury called executive functions disorders, and it causes, how do I put this? It causes, I guess, hypersensitivity. I'm constantly focused on distractions, and it also causes me to be over analytical. So I overanalyze and second guess everything, and on top of that, I'm focused on all the distractions around me, everything that's going on around me. So I'm kind of like a first person perspective, just taking in the whole world around him as if that's the only thing he could focus on. So naturally, in part to do with that brain injury, I can only write through life. And, when I rap, it's literally the easiest way for me to have a conversation. It's the easiest way for me to say, what's on my mind without having to rant for hours in front of a person who does not give a shit about what I have to say. My mind is constantly in overdrive, and there's a lot of things on my mind. I'm one of those people that's very righteous and vigilant, and so I'm always thinking of ways that I want to change the world, that I want to save the world, that I kind of take my life as a bittersweet struggle, in the sense that I feel like, having been so neglected throughout life, and having been nobody to everybody for a long period of his life, I've just kind of grown to be more or less the hero if no one else is going to give a fuck to save me. I want to be the hero to save the world. That's kind of just the scope that I've lived my life through, is I aspire to be the next revolutionary. I look to finish what Tupac and John Lennon and JFK, what they were all trying to start but couldn't finish. I wanna really defeat the control of establishment, because even just making sense of my life, writing is one of the key components for me. Being that, I spent 5.5 years in isolated treatment. Well, maybe not 5.5, but about 5 years in isolated treatment. And, man, it was rough. It was literally just a controlled routine. There was no reality. You were waking up to Groundhog Day. That's all it was. It's the same shit every day. It just had an alternating rotation. You could write it down in a script, and it would be on point, like key for key for key for, like, it got to be so boring that it drove me insane. I was there because I had aggression, but I just got that much more aggressive having to deal with such an isolated environment. So when I got discharged, and when I was 17 and I was out on my own, right? Well, living in semi-independence, but when I was taking in the freedom that I had only really had movies to give me an idea about, when I was finally in that freedom, I was like, you know what? This really fucking sucks, and the movies lied to me, Like, I was just kind of like, I didn't know what to really make of... when you hold something up to such a high expectation. How could I not? Spending, 5 years in isolation, my thought process was, fucking freedom better be worth it if this is how long I'm spending in isolation. But when your freedom isn't that sweet, and you get out and you realize that life's shit, whether you're isolated or not, it kind of affects you in a way that you wanna change that for everyone else. And that's what I aspire to do as a rapper, as an activist, as just an entrepreneur, just whatever, right? Whatever I have to be, I want to do what I can to change the world and save the world. But a lot of what what the name, even my rap name Chameleon, comes from is the way that I don't really process personality the same way that other people do. To me, personality is anything I can write myself to be through my own perspective, right? If I start talking black, it's just because that's the perspective I have at the time. And it's not even so much as, like I'm trying to talk black, as much as I'm literally talking the way a rapper would in my perspective. That's my rapper personality. Like, for me, that's still my personality. It's an extension of my personality. It's like a sub-personality type of thing, right? Like, so it's more just different sides to me. Like, everyone's got a soft side, everyone's got a hard side, everyone's got a wild side, everyone's got a dirty side. Everyone's got different sides to them, and I kind of like to write my own sides to me, and I kind of like to just constantly build myself with different sides of myself, because they all fit really well in, every aspect of life. But that is why, the life of a rapper, like, you think of a rap song, what are you doing with that? You're writing, right? You're writing that song when you start out. My whole life is that, because the only time I can even make sense of half the shit that I say without rapping is if I rap and make sense of it. So, like, literally for me, hip-hop is life. Rap is life. Poetry is life. Like, I'm already a self-published author with a book called Live Once, Die Twice. I got it published through Ex Libris. So it was self-publishing. I did a book signing already for it, and I made like almost $300. And, I was selling the books at $20 a pop. Now I already got like other self-publishing companies trying to compromise in lowering the price that's since raised, since it was only $20 a book. And they want to have me pay a little bit more with the price lowered a little bit, but they want to give me 100% royalties, which would be kind of cool if I had enough publicity on my book. But like, I've been trying to focus more on my music lately. But towards what I want to say is going to be like the final installment to, I guess, the trilogy that I've been writing, really, between poetry, rap, and then I also want to at some point put out an autobiography. And you know, this is the other thing about the life of a rapper. You know, when you're going for something as challenging as a rap artist, like, it's hard not to look as far into the future as I do. Like, I try to apply the law of attraction of it, and I try and basically take the Jim Carrey approach. I try to say, like, you know what, I'm already there. You know, I've already had this success. I've already done all the shows. I've already done all this, and I kind of work my whole way through it, putting in, you know, mad bars, you know, writing mad verses, and just writing all kinds of content. I'm even working on a comedy show just because I want that kind of exposure. And I've also got, I don't know if it's still saved on my cloud, but I've got another a rap that I've been writing. It's a bit of a comedy project. I'm trying to write a rap that I can perform as a funny type rap at a comedy show, so that I can perform funny type rap as comedy. It's kind of like ironic in a humorous way, but I got a lot of things that I've been working on, and if to anyone that's been listening since the Crazy Train, like, I don't want anyone to think that I forgot about you. I literally went a year on the streets of Hamilton, and I was homeless for a while before I finally got off the streets. And you know, I also had to move up the mountain from the place that I was living downtown. Now I'm up the mountain. You know, I got a whole basement to myself. I'm gonna finish into a studio, and that's when you'll see a lot of really good tracks coming out. Is when I get the studio finished, and you know, it's already an unfinished basement, so it's gonna work perfectly as far as soundproofing goes, and just really inventing the kind of space that I want for a studio. And it'll allow me to just basically live in my studio, so that if I got a producer over, if I'm producing myself, if I manage to get good at that, I could spend like 3 days just grinding out recording session after recording session after recording session after recording session, and I could grind out the same way that you used to see Tupac grinding out. Like, you'd see videos of him, and he'd literally be in the studio like all day and all night, like he was just grinding. And that's something that I aspire to be, because I look up to Tupac. He's to my perspective, at least, he's the closest thing to God. But I just wanted to make this episode of The Life of a Rapper to basically introduce you to what you could expect from The Life of a Rapper as a series. Just some of the things it's looking at. I'll get into some life stories. I'll get into some more, I guess, analogies and just life truths that I've basically come across. But I kind of want to make it, you know, my up and coming. I want to make it a bit more of like a conversation with my audience, and I want it to feel like my audience came up with me. So if you tune into this podcast and I start pumping out tunes, and you're tuning into the podcast and the tunes, then you're kind of having the chance to basically communicate with me in a two-sided conversation, as well as follow my music. But that's gonna be it for today, you guys, and I'll see you on the next episode. Hopefully a little bit more well grounded and not stumbling over my words as much. But I think I did good. I'll see you on the next one, and I'll think of a fucking catchphrase at some point. But right now, I'm just signing off, I guess.